Welcome to Only Time Can Tell. I'm your host, Ken. Before we begin, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe so this way you get notifications as we upload new videos, new content that may be of interest to you. We decided to do something a little different this season. Normally, I would sit here and have a guest, but I decided this time around I wanted to basically share my point of view, share my experiences with you guys, with the viewers, as well as what led me to sit here in front of the cameras, in front of you guys, because I'm in my own right a success, but may not have always felt that. So where do we begin? How do we begin? Well, one of the things that I had to realize before I got here is that as parents always want what's best for their children. And to different parents, that may look like different things. I know growing up, I used to hear a lot, you want to go to school, so therefore you can always go out and get a good job. And while I appreciated that, there was something missing with that information, right? There was a lot of ambiguous, a lot of vagues being thrown at you. For instance, getting a good job. What was a good job? A good job was something that after 20 years, you would be able to retire and collect your pension. i.e. civil service, like a police officer. But that never quite made sense to me because I used to ask my dad, well, if I'm a police officer, who's to say that I'm going to make it 20 years? That's a very dangerous job or what have you. And, police officers get hurt, some get shot, some fatally. Like, there's a lot of variables there, So to give my life in service to something for 20 years and then may or may not be able to reap the benefits of it never really sat well with me. Not to mention his whole concept of, you want to basically work here. You want to work hard now so you can enjoy your life later. Kind of didn't sit right with me because then it was just like, all right, well, I'm sacrificing and tomorrow isn't promised. Where some of my friends who I was envious of because they were like musicians, they were going around the country playing their instruments, doing things that they love, like it was like night and day. So how did I get here, you may ask? So in addition to the advice that my father was giving me, for instance, being a police officer, it was only up until years later I realized the only reason why he gave that advice to me was because that was something that he wanted to do, but for whatever reason, he couldn't do it. So his whole thing was to kind of like push his dreams and his goals onto me as his son, which is a noble thing, because like I said, parents, their intentions are good. They want what's best for their kids. But when you start pushing your dreams onto your children and not allowing your children to live the lives that they were basically here to live, then it causes a kind of weird sort of tension between a relationship because it's like, you're not seeing the child for who he is rather than what you want the child to be almost as an extension of you. And that's not fair. That's not fair. Case in point, my example, growing up, I was artistic. I liked to draw. I would spend nothing but hours upon hours drawing, and I thought at one point that I wanted to be a cartoonist. At least this is what I was thinking when I was a kid. It would be cool to just sit there all day and drawing cartoons and stuff like that. But my father, on the other hand, was like, no, that's not a real job. A real job is something that you do that you can basically get paid, which you could get paid as an artist, but that wasn't realistic because that wasn't his reality. So one of the things that I had to pick up when I became a father is to make sure that I basically listen to my children, listen to their voice because they have a voice, they have a purpose, and not to necessarily inject or to force on them my beliefs, but kind of work collaboratively with them. Case in point with my son now. My son, my oldest son, he works out, he does that effortlessly 6 days a week. And at a point now where it's just like, okay, I want to be a personal trainer. Under no circumstances am I sitting there and telling him, no, that's not a real job. You should do something else, because my job as a father is to help him be the best version of himself. So what we basically do is we sit down and we think of strategies on how he can basically grow that business or whatever. Like I've already told him, he already has the physique. So that in itself is going to sell itself. But now the step two is, okay, how do we basically now navigate to other people, right? Which I guess is the beautiful thing that came out of my upbringing with my dad, because and him showing me or kind of forcing me to kind of go the direction that he envisioned, that in turn I was able to now flip that with my son and just kind of say, hey, you know what? Let's work together to try to fulfill a dream to make your life more complete. Because when your life is more complete, then I get my flowers. I would have done my job as a father of helping you to be the best person that you can be. And then the process goes on and on and on with your children, with your children's children, your children's children. That's how we do it. That's how we all achieve a level of success, right?